Disgraced Italian prelate Angelo Cardinal Becciu is currently being tried by the Roman Curia Supreme Tribunal of Apostolic Signatura under Judge Giuseppe Pagante. Pope Francis himself approved of the 487-page indictment. Historically, he would have been tried by other prelates. However, in regard to a recent update to Vatican law, laymen can now rule against prelates. He's being tried for embezzlement, money laundering, fraud, extortion, and abuse of office. Once remember that while yes, the Holy See leads to 2.3 million Catholics in Rome, the rest of the Church through patron authority, the Vatican is a government and a major player in global diplomacy, despite its small size. One only needs to look at the role of Jean-Paul in the collapse of Abdullah Communist Russia, or France's role in peace between Cuba and America, and his vocal stance against the attack on Ukraine by Putin, as well as the offers by both Pope Francis and Pietro Cardinal Parolin, the Secretary of State, to help mediate peace offers, which Zelensky has favored while Putin has seemed to favor offers by the Saudi Arabian government. If convicted, Becciu would be sentenced to an Italian prison through Section 1, Article 22 of the Lateran Treaty. He will be tried through Vatican law, a combination of 1889 Italian legal code and canon law. If Becciu was convicted and arrested, he would be the first cardinal arrested and prosecuted by the Vatican city-state, which, mind you, was only founded in 1929 under a treaty by the Prime Minister of Italy, Benito Mussolini, on behalf of King Victor Emmanuel III and Secretary of State of the Papal States, Pietro Cardinal Gaspari, on behalf of Pope Pius XI in an attempt to solve the so-called Roman question. He would not, however, be the first arrested cardinal, as the most recently arrested cardinal was George Cardinal Pell in 2018 under various charges of sex offences. This was eventually quashed by the High Courts of Australia in 2020. Even then, during the 20th century, under the regime of the Nazis and Soviets, numerous cardinals, both who held the title and those who would eventually be given the red beretta, were taken as political prisoners, such as Joseph Cardinal Mazzenti, Clemens Cardinal Borgalan, and at that point, Father Ernesto Solomon-Giorgiani, who would eventually be given the red beretta. This is the sole survivor of the Albanian genocide against the priests. As of now, disgraced Andy Fox, former cardinal and former Archbishop of Washington, Theodore McCarrick is being investigated for sex crimes by the state of Massachusetts, utilizing a legal loophole which relies on the fact that he did not stay in the state of Massachusetts and ergo did not fulfill the statute of limitations. Even before the Holy See's establishment, Clemente Cardinal Ostini, the papal legate to the marshes of Ancona, was arrested under the orders of Pope Alexander VI. In 1503, cardinals, by virtue of their office, have diplomatic immunity, a strategy utilized by Bernard Cardinal Law of Boston. Pell waived his power in 2018. This was, however, revoked for former Nuncio de France Archbishop Luigi Ventero under the orders of Pope Francis on charges of sexual abuse in 2018 and 2019. However, unfortunately for Becciu, diplomatic immunity doesn't work when your own country wants to prosecute you. The biography of Becciu is necessary. He was born on June 7, 1948, in Padara, Sardinia, Italy. He was ordained a priest on August 27, 1972, by Bishop Francesco Comini. He earned a doctorate of canon law and studied at Pontifical Ecclesiastical University. Becciu served as nuncio, that's a diplomat to Angola and São Tomé and Príncipe, then Cuba, prior to his promotion to the role of substitute for general affairs and the Secretary of State. In this role, according to Pope John Paul II's Pastoral Bonus, he was effectively the chief of staff of the Roman Curia. He was in charge of various papal documents, publications through Acta Apostolicae Sedis. This role is traditionally heavy head over the Vatican, being held by men such as the current Dean of the College of Cardinals, Prefect Emeritus of the Congregation of Bishops, the then Archbishop Giovanni Battista Adea, Vice Dean of the College of Cardinals, and Prefect of the Dicastery for the Oriental Churches, the then Archbishop Leonardo Sandi, and Archbishop Giovanni Battista Monte, now known as St. Pope Paul VI. He is fluent in his native Italian, along with French, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. In 2018, he was promoted to the role of Prefect of the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, which many observers saw as a demotion through promotion. As is customary at the role of prefects, Archbishop Becciu was given the titular authority of San Lino Basilica as Cardinal of San Lino. Now let's get to the crux of the controversy. The Vatican lost a total of 150 million euros, or about 200 million USD, were then attempted to buy a portion of a former Harrods warehouse in London's Chelsea neighborhood to be converted into luxury apartments. Much of this money was through Peter's Pence, a collection made towards the Holy See by churches around the world. Due to miscommunication and misunderstanding by parish priests who didn't understand the donation, the faithful were under the impression that their donations were made only to charity. While it does go to charity, it also goes to charitable administration costs. The Vatican buying land in the center of London might seem like strange, and they're not wrong in that assumption. The Vatican, like many governments, attempts to capitalize on money through investments to bring about greater profit. For instance, they financed Elton John's 2019 film Rocketman, also through a great deal of controversy, especially since in 2020, when the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith under Cardinal Luis Ladaria released a comment on the blessing of same-sex marriages, Elton John commented on this perceived hypocrisy of how they're willing to bless a film while not being willing to bless the union behind same-sex couples. Now, let's look at the background. In 2012, Angolan oligarch and friend of President Jose Eduardo dos Santos, Antonio Mosquito Membaki, came to Becciu, who was the nunciu in Angola at this point, asking him to have the Secretary of State invest around $200 million into his company, Falcon Oil Holdings, an oil exploration project. Becciu brought this forward to the Secretary of State, who in return brought it to their banker and financial advisor, Credit Suisse. They asked Raphael Migrone, an Italian financier, to do due diligence on the loan. He advised them against it, and the money was in turn brought to Harold's warehouse, then owned by Raphael Migrone, an Italian businessman. The other half of the money was invested into various other projects. At the time, it seemed to be a safe and profitable investment. However, due to Brexit, the property tanked. As a result, the Vatican lost millions of dollars in mortgage payments and inflated fees. Becciu comes in here again as knowingly paying off these inflated fees. Interestingly, both the Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, and the current substitute of the Secretary of State, Archbishop Edgar Piñabara, signed on this deal. However, the Vatican has declined to investigate them due to claimed deception, brought forth to them. Even though Pope Francis himself knew about the deal and Torchi's involvement in it. However, his details were, of course, as the leader of a foreign country and head of the largest religion in the world, his ability to focus primarily on that was limited. Entitled to repair damages or attaining ownership of the Vatican brought in Raphael Mincon, how relationships should sour. He was soon replaced by Gianluigi Torchi. Torchi was arrested in 2020 of June for 10 days, but was released on conditional release after giving the Vatican documents. This isn't Torchi's first altercation with Roman authorities. It was found that two of his companies had been overcharging the famed Roman Bata Benefratelli hospital most famous for its diagnosis of the fictional Syndrome K, in an attempt to hide Jews from the Nazis upon their entrance into Rome. On loans, Vatican authorities argued that Torchi tricked the Vatican into restructuring 1,000 shares of the property in a manner that gave Torchi full voting powers. Further, it is alleged that he used the power to extort the Vatican out of 15 million euros. To fix this, Secretary of State, now led by Barlini and Beve, decided they have two choices, either to pay him or to sue. They eventually figured that a lawsuit would take multiple years and give the risk of Torchi winning, with Barlini stating, between these two options, with the advice of lawyers and experts, option number 2 was chosen because it was considered more economical, with more contained risks and a more manageable time frame. Vatican authorities go on to say that Cardinal Parolin was tricked into approving Torchi's contract by a lawyer through a one-page memo that ignored key details such as the voting state. Parolin's office claims that the encouragement came from Berlasca and other Vatican officials, but Fabrizio Dembadi led him to agree to this document. The event led to the Vatican Gendarmerie forces, their police force, to raid the offices of the Secretary of State and the Vatican's Financial Information Authority, founded under Pope Benedict's reign, to help lead to clear financial stuff. Subsequently, René Bruhart, president of the AIF, and his former director, Tommaso de Rosa, were charged with abuse of power. One notable member of the Secretary of State, Monsignor Alberto Persala, was also suspect, but he claims to have not had the authority. It was actually his office that dealt with the investment. Following, he claims that he wanted to call Torchi out for fraud, while the other prelates preferred to continue negotiating. Charges were dropped against him, presumably because he will not testify as a witness against other. He will testify as a witness against other indicted figures. Dalbuzzi was also charged with improper use of a credit card and sharing confidential information. On this, he wrote, "I always carry out my function and duties with correctness. The truth about my innocence will emerge." Farther, a former exterior security consultant of Becciu, Cecilia Margona, was indicted for Becciu's role in giving her 575,000 euros. Margona claims this money was used to pay ransom for kidnapped African missionaries. However, Vatican authorities argue that she spent the money on luxury purchases. However, she argues that the Vatican records reflect legitimate salaries paid for her role. Derabassi would also be charged with that again. Farther, Becciu's assistant, Monsignor Mario Cardinal, was also charged by the Vatican. However, he claims that it wasn't until 2019 that he heard about this deal. After this land deal, Becciu was eventually fired for a €100,000 donation to an Italian Catholic charity in Sardinia. The issue was that his brother ran it, giving the impression of nepotism. His action caused Pope Francis to remove Becciu from his role as prefect of the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, and subsequently he lost his rights as the Cardinal, the fact that he's no longer to vote in the future conclaves. However, he is still allowed to wear the regalia of the Cardinal, that being red, still use the galero in the coat of arms, which is also red and has 15 tassels, and he is able to keep his leadership over titular church, and is able to keep the title of Cardinal and His Eminence. Vatican is no stranger to economic issues, none of which Becciu was involved in. Under Signor Sostito, Vatican leaks first erupted in 2012 after Vatican butler Paolo Gabriele released confidential papal letters. It was also connected to the Vatican Leaks 2.0, in which Vatican financial documents were also leaked. Further, he took a large loan out of the administration of the patrimony of the Apostolic See to bail out the failing Estero del Patrisco de Elimacra Dermatological Hospital. The reason for the debt was the embezzlement of millions of dollars from their owners. In an attempt to cover this, the Secretary of State requested a $25 million grant from the American Foundation, the Papal Foundation. Related to Becciu, last year a group of men dressed up in a Cardinal's Menzetta and surplice, that is being the white garments and the red garment that goes along right here, went around Rome asking for donations for the Vatican. Over the 20 years, they gained about 1.7 million euros, that is about 2 million USD. During this land scandal, Becciu came under the attention of George Cardinal Pell, prefect of the Secretariat for the Economy. On this, Pell stated, "I don't know a great deal when I went home. We did know the Secretary of State would not give us access to the records and would not let the auditors in. We also knew they would make an accounting error on the London property, which had the effect of masking it. We picked us up, but we were entirely arrogant of the debacle that was showing." Becciu notably halted him, as his quote, shares from hiring an external auditor to go through the Vatican finances, telling newspapers La Repubblica and Corriere della Sera marked that Pell's role very nearly revealed the misdeeds of Becciu. Relations were so tense that Italian newspapers, including Corriere della Sera, claimed that Becciu made up to a $1.14 million payment to bring about a conviction against Pell. This charge has been denounced by Becciu and independent press organizations, such as the AP, and Victoria Independent Broad-Based Anti-Corruption Commission has noted that they will not look into this, although it is important to note that 2.3 million Australian dollars, or 1.65 million USD, from the Vatican were sent to Australia and have been unaccounted for. This has caused Pell to send an interview in regards to his prison letters. I have one question for Cardinal Becciu. Will he just tell us where the money was sent for? The trial has been halted multiple times due to the coronavirus pandemic, and the prosecution's refusal to turn over certain pieces of evidence, including the full cuts of Velasquez's interrogation. Remember, he was the person who revealed certain stuff in a plea deal. Pope Francis notably revoked Becciu's right to pontifical seizure, which is something akin to American executive privilege. This power, however, has been greatly limited in Pope Francis's efforts to combat the shielding of the sexual abuse crisis. This trial holds true value, one, due to its multinational involvement of numerous countries, but also more importantly from a Vaticanological standpoint is a test for how far Pope Francis will really go on cleaning up the Vatican as he has promised. Showing promise, one of the suspects of Predicate Evangelium, the most recent Vatican constitution, entails the ability for the laity to take roles as prefects. As a result of this, someone with more of a business and legal background can fulfill the roles traditionally held by clerics. However, the current prefect of the Secretariat for the Economy, Jesuit priest, Father Juan Antonio Guerrero, who opted out of being made Cardinal Bishop, will probably remain in his post until 2025 when his tenure expires. The most likely successor then would be Dr. Maximo Cabello Ledo, a layman with experience in international business. Could this help change Vatican economic issues? Only time will tell. This trial has multiple points of various class. So yes, it is a major trial in what is considered to be the trial of the century for the Vatican City State. Hopefully, it won't get any worse. It also focuses strongly on the importance of contracts law, in which you have tort see very clearly, according to Vatican prosecutors, mending the contracts in a way, both manipulatively and openly, in the way in which it appears that Becciu agreed and kind of just waved it off, in senses that are illegal and can entirely change the contract. At the same time, you also have this idea of international business, as multiple countries are involved in this. You have, of course, the Vatican and England going back and forth. You have Italy, where the financiers are from. And you have Angola, where the entire business plan originally originated with the idea of the oligarch trying to sell this idea to Becciu.